Welcome to Bible study. This is the Bible study we're preparing for St. Michael's Lutheran Church on October 6th in 2024. And we're looking at the first book of Samuel and some of the Deuteronomic history. And so if you have your Bible, you might turn to that. On last Sunday, we discussed the prayer, the faithful prayer of Hannah, and how she trusted in God, and that she looked forward to the Lord's reversal of what appears to be now, how the mighty are cast down and the humble are lifted up, and the poor are fed, and those who are well fed are looking for something to eat. It's this prayer of a great turnaround, of the world stood on its head from what it looks like right now. That prayer, we noted in our Sunday morning discussion, sounded like it was really aimed at somebody. And we think that somebody is, in fact, the people of Israel in exile. When these books were compiled at that time, they would have been feeling very powerless. They would have very much felt like the hungry and the people kind of on the bottom of the power structure at the time. And Hannah's prayer would have been really the faith to which this book is calling them. And that may be really important for everything we are going to hear from here on out, because the prayer of Hannah is going to be reflected in a number of the stories that we're going to read about in the coming days, where the people who are high and mighty and powerful are cast down, and people who are humble, and people who are the poor, the people who are the least likely to be successful, are the ones whom God seems to have his eye on, the ones whom God is looking out for, and whom he rescues and whom he saves. This is a continuation of what God was doing in the book of Judges, but now it's going to be intensified in a number of ways. And we saw that in the rest of chapter 2. In the balance of that chapter, as we looked at it on Sunday, we noticed that the corruption that had afflicted the people of Israel was now found in the very top of its religious structure. Eli, the high priest, has two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, and they are corrupt. They are taking the offerings, dipping into it for their own personal gain. And there's also the suggestion that there's a sexual scandal that is taking place. Eli tries to rein them in, but they do not listen to him. And finally, a man of God comes and pronounces a prophecy against him, that the sons of Eli, the children of Eli, will bear a curse. They will no longer be able to grow old. They will all die young. They will leave widows and orphans to weep for them. They will be a people that are a symbol or a sign of God's judgment. Eli responds to that by trying to rein his sons in, but they do not do it. Everyone who is left in your house shall come to implore him, that is, this new one whom God raises up, for a piece of bread, a loaf of bread, a piece of silver, and shall say, please put me in one of the priest's places, that I may have something to eat. Who is this one that God is going to lift up? Well, quite likely, and we're going to see that story now, it's that little boy that has been deposited at the temple door in order that the priest might raise him. This little one named Samuel. The boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord in the presence of Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no frequent vision. Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim, so that he could not see, was lying down in his own place. He's not only blind in sight, as you might think of someone who doesn't see well, but Eli is also blind spiritually. The Lord comes to Samuel and says, and Samuel is inside the temple, sleeping, lying down on his place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, so it's not yet the middle of the night. And Samuel was lying down where the ark of God was. And the Lord called to Samuel, "Here I am." And Samuel said, "Here I am." But he runs to Eli, thinking that it is Eli who is calling him. And Eli says, "No, I'm not. Go back and lie down." 3 times this happens. And it's only after the 3rd time. And the implication here is that Eli, as the high priest of God, knowing where Samuel was sleeping in the temple where the ark was, Eli really should have known better. It shouldn't have taken 3 times. Eli's blindness is more acute and perhaps more widespread than you might imagine. Samuel, on the 4th time, is sent back, but this time Eli realizes what's going on, and he says, if he calls again, say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." And God comes and speaks. And he says, "Behold, I am about to do a thing in Israel which will cause the 2 ears of everyone who hears it to tingle. On that day I will fulfill against Eli all I have spoken concerning his house, from beginning to end. And I declare to him that I am about to punish his house forever for the iniquity that he knew, because his sons were blaspheming God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I swear to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever." They are going to live under this curse. We see at several points during the narrative of the Deuteronomic history that this priestly family keeps showing up. In chapters 21 and following of 1 Samuel, David, in running away from Saul, is helped by a priest named Ahimelech. And the priest is utterly oblivious to what is going on. David is actually running away from the king. David deceives him, says, "I'm not running from the king. No, I'm actually on a secret mission for the king." So Ahimelech helps him. Saul finds out, and Ahimelech and all of his family die. It's that curse being played out. This goes on several times. Each time it seems that that this family is set to make a choice. It is a choice which is made that is, they always make the wrong choice. And it always falls down so hard upon them. Finally, in the days of King Solomon, he gets so frustrated with them, he banishes them all to a little village outside of Jerusalem called Anatoth. It's a nowhere place. They didn't have access to the temple. They were nobodies. If you go to the book of Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet, it says that these are the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, one of the priests from Anatoth. One of the prophets of God, it will be one of these priests. It isn't that God is rejecting them, but he is saying this reality, this consequence of what you have done, Eli, I've decreed to be a curse on your family for generations. We'll talk more about that one on Sunday. For now, God has spoken his judgment against Eli. Samuel lay until morning, and then he opened the doors. He wondered, did he sleep? He opened the doors of the house of the Lord, and Samuel was afraid to tell his vision to Eli. But Eli called Samuel and said, "Samuel, my son." And he said, "Here am I." And Eli said, "What is it that he told you? Do not hide it from me. May God do so to you, and more also, if you hide anything from me of all that he said to you." And so Samuel told him everything, and he hid nothing from him. And he said, "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." And Eli is resigned to his fate. Samuel grew, the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was established as a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord. It was as if the visions of God, which had grown rare, have now come back, because Samuel is there. He's established as a prophet, and the people recognize that, and they listen to him. In chapter 4, we read that the Philistines are coming. We're not going to get too far into that today, but the Philistines are such an interesting people. I want to give you a little preface of them as you come in. Maybe you would want to read ahead. The Philistines, we don't know where they come from. They suddenly show up. We have a marvelous Egyptian document that describes the advent of these sea peoples who came and stormed upon the shores of the Egyptian country, of the Egyptian empire. But the Egyptians were able to beat them back, and they seem to have bounced off and gone up the coast a little bit and landed in a little corner of the kingdom of Israel at that time. And they occupied 5 cities on the coast. Gaza was one of them, Ashkelon, Gath, Ekron. You can go to those places today. They are, in fact, that part of the world that is being ravaged by war as we speak. It is the Gaza Strip. At the time the Philistines landed there and established their very relatively small kingdom, they came, however, with a new thing, a new technology that no one at the time had. For they had somewhere learned the secret of iron. You may have heard of the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. The arrival of the Philistines in Palestine around the year 1100 or so is the advent of the Iron Age. The Israelites at the time are still using bronze. They can't compete with an iron-equipped army. A bronze sword is thick and heavy and slow. But an iron sword can be made much thinner and lighter, and it is stronger. And the soldier who has such a weapon will always defeat the bronze-equipped soldier. What is more, with iron, you are able to effectively make an axle, and that allows you to make a functioning chariot. There were chariots in the Bronze Age, but they often broke down because the bronze was not able to withstand the forces of a horse pulling on it. But with an iron axle, you can make a chariot that you can count on and depend upon. And if you are in a chariot against men on foot, you're a little bit like a tank. And the Philistines are going to ravage the people of Israel. Eventually, Israel will also gain the secret of iron. But for now, know that the Philistines, though they are a very small group, have a serious technological advantage over the Israelites. That's going to play into our story at several points coming up. We look forward to talking with you more about the vision of Samuel and what God is calling him to do and what he does on Sunday. God bless you.